Hey, beautiful souls, and welcome to Around the Kitchen Table, a space for honest conversations, stories from the heart, and gentle reminders that we're all walking each other home. I'm Laura Island, mother, creative, soul led CEO of Sacred Sister CIC, and the woman behind Wise Sacred Woman. I'm a witch with ADHD. And this podcast is where we gather to share the real, raw, and radiant parts of life. Each week, we'll explore what it means to live in rhythm with ourselves, with nature, and with one another. We'll talk about womanhood, sisterhood, creativity, leadership, spirituality, and the messy magic of being a human. So pour yourself a cuppa, get comfy, and let's meet here around the kitchen table, where stories are medicine and every voice belongs. Hi, welcome to Around the Kitchen Table. I am literally around my kitchen table, which is currently covered in letters for the signage outside Cavendish Bazaar. For those of you that are watching this, I will just show you so you get where I'm coming from. And I know that somebody's going to say, use a microphone, it will be easier, people won't listen, all of the stuff. My microphone broke and I haven't replaced it yet, and I'm really sorry about that. So I will just shout loudly. And yes, I'm sure you'll be able to hear noises in the background. I can't do anything about that today, because it's either this or nothing. And really, I just wanted to jump on because this week's been a shit show. Has it been a shit show for anyone else? And is it really a shit show, or is it just how I'm feeling? Or is it the moon, the freaking stars, the planets? Is there some weird thing going on that I just have missed? I don't know. I don't know. So today's probably going to end up being a bit of a rant, a bit of a moan, a bit of a funny one, a bit of a, I don't know, it doesn't really have a theme other than me and my painting and my kitchen table. But where to start? Where to start? Um, it's quite hard because normally I just share very openly with you, but there's lots of things that have happened this week that aren't really mine to share. So I don't feel like I can, but they've all had massive impacts on me. And that has been a thing. But what I realized in all of that, and I guess that's really what I want to share with you, is the impact of women in my life. Um, I guess I can start with why Sacred Sister really exists. And you might feel like you've heard this story a million times before, for the like three of you that might watch this, let's face it. Or you may have no idea, and so this may come as a surprise to you, or you may hear another angle of it that you've not heard before. I was a part of, hang on, let's rewind. Back in the day, when I was just a mere youngster, at 16, I became a beauty therapist. And I, by 19, had my own salon. And the rest is history, really. That was my life for 30 years. Why is that relevant? I don't know where to put this one down, because if I put it here, then I'm going to work my way that way and I'll be further away from you by the time I finish. Anyway, why is that relevant? It's relevant because it means that my life, and it really took me until probably I was 30 years in to realize that predominantly my work had been with women, and it had been in the field of women's health and well-being, and it had been in the field of healing, and it had been in the field of listening to hundreds of thousands of women's stories in that time. And I held groups and I did classes and I taught and I did loads. I did loads throughout my career. And it was the thing that put a roof over my children's heads for 9 years when I was by myself with them with no income from anyone else and no support. So it's fair to say that that's what I did, and that's who I was. It kind of made me who I am in some ways. It made me who I was in that that's what I was known for. So I've always been Laura the therapist, Laura the like, I remember meeting up with someone. Actually, she became kind of a neighbour in the neighbouring village, funnily enough. But back in the day when I was 16, 17, I used to wax her legs. And she said, "Oh my God, you're back." And so she used to come to me then at the house and I was like, "I'm not back. We've both moved and end up in the same place. That's just weird." But she was running past my house and she said, "Oh my God, I still literally talk about you as like the best waxer in the West." It was like there's just no one like you. Anyway, my claim to fame after, many moons. Just make sure I did hit record, otherwise, because that's kind of the way my life is going right now. I could be talking just to myself, which I really am. Anyway, but sometimes even that, right? Talking to yourself, journaling is the way that you just get this shit show of life out instead of carrying it around. So I know that by the end of this, whether it's affected anyone else, and if it has, please do leave me a little message, a little comment to let me know that, you did listen, because sometimes I feel like I just rant into the ether. But I know even if I just rant into the ether, and I never even share this podcast because I go, "Oh my God, that was dire. Why would anyone want to listen to that?" Um, I know that I will feel better because I've got it out. And so you are currently my journal because I can't write and paint at the same time. So yes, so I was a beauty therapist. I managed spas all over the world. I guess what's interesting is I spent Wednesday night. Wednesday went and had my hair done. The lovely Martha. Anyone who would like dreads or needs a loctician, she's amazing. I went to see Martha and I offloaded my whole shitstorm of time there because that's what you do when you go to the hairdressers, right? But to be fair, Martha and I have such a good relationship that I usually end up listening to Martha and Martha listens to me and we go round and round and it's amazing. This time she just had to listen to me because there was so much for me to offload that it was a bit nuts. And from there, I went down to Dorset and I spent time with a really. Oh, well, I didn't. Oh, no, I did. Oh my God. How can I? Okay. Sorry. I'm sorry. This is all over the show. Um, this is me in ADHD overwhelm. Too much going on in my brain. On my way to my friend Jack's house, I just decided I would go and get some food for us for dinner. And I stopped in a place called Chard. And in Chard, I met a lovely guy called Chris. And he, with his husband, owns a place called Health and Remedy, which is like a health food shop with like this amazing herbal tea apothecary, which is one of the things that I want to establish in Weston, in the Cavendish. And it was just lush. It was so lovely. And it just reminded me of like what happens in those chance meetings when you follow your nose. So I had a little cuppa and we chatted and we connected and that was really sweet. And then I got back on my way and I got to Jack's house and Jack's has this beautiful house that they've worked so hard on and it's definitely a retreat, and Jack's is an ordained minister the same as me and a breath worker and again amazing if you want to check her out, Reverend Jack's Bull. Um, Stuck these. If anyone can hear this noise or is watching, I've managed to stick it to the sheets. It's got all these extra bits that don't need to be on there, and I don't have any sandpaper, so it's my fingers picking them off. Anyway, I'm laughing because this is a C, and I painted it like it was a U. It wasn't a U, it was a C. And I mean that because the brush strokes were all going one way, because anyway, it's copper. And made me think about how it's perception, right? Could have been a U, could have been a C. Um, so I got to Jack's and I offloaded. I am well known for saying that I don't really have friends. Like you're either in my circle or you're not in my circle. I don't really have a hierarchy of friends, because actually I realize that's a real trauma response from my teenage years where, I was never the cool one. I never really fitted in. I never really had friendship groups because I didn't fit into any of the friendship groups that were there. I just was friends with everybody or knew everybody, but no one was really ever kind of quite there. And I didn't have a bestie that I would say is, my bestie, and I don't have bestie that's gone through my, from childhood with me. I do have my old boss, who I would say is like the oldest friend I still have in my life. Um, so yeah, those relationships are quite hard for me, and I recognise quite hard for Jax too. Like we're both neurodivergent women. Um, we didn't know that about ourselves for a long time. We do now. Like so, it's so lush to dump down with someone and literally just be able to chat and connect with no freaking assumptions, no, like it was just beautiful. And there were no men around. Her chaps were away, her son and her husband. We just had this beautiful, beautiful evening. Anyway, the reason I digressed on to sharing that little bit with you is because it was sharing kind of more of my life and our life stories together that she was just like, and more, and more. Like, Laura, how many lives have you flipping well had? Like, you're telling me things that literally like are enough for one person's life. And you definitely came into this life going, throw it all at me, like there is just so much, from abusive marriages to difficult relationships with women, to kind of trauma in childhood, not abusive, like not nasty stuff, just everyday stuff, but you realize has really affected you as you grow up. My dad was a truck driver, so he was never there, so I had this whole abandonment thing going on. Now I've got the bits I just pulled off this one stuck to the other one. And maybe this should be entitled ADHD rant. Maybe it would get more hits if people actually were able to see that, this is really my life. When you see me together and holding it together, and that person that you see on stage or on social media or on, like, that is me. But some days it's just a bit messy. Today it's just a bit messy. So, but I have always been known to be as real. Today it's messy and real. So she was sharing with me about that, and it reminded me of how many things have happened in my life that are huge. For many people, they would have finished them off, and I'm still going, and I'm still doing my best, and I'm still finding my way, and I'm still healing, and I'm still, I've been through lots of physical stuff, lots of mental stuff, losses, and like many of us have. And I think menopause has kind of been the place where there's just nowhere to hide anymore. It's like I have no choice but to face some of those things and to speak about them openly. So I did, and we had the most amazing conversations, and it was a really beautiful night. And I was still going through some stuff with my husband. We've obviously just created Cavendish Bazaar. That's really amazing, but it's a massive project, and it's put us under quite a lot of pressure. And we have not traversed that very well. And I did wonder if this might be the last, the project that actually finished off our marriage. But I'm sure that we'll come out the other side of it, because that is life. If you commit to each other, you don't just give up, right? You keep going and you work on it, and we're both learning and we're both growing. And if you think that at 50 you've got it all sorted, then you're far mistaken, because I feel that that's when actually you get the chance to do work in a different way. And so we're learning, but it's tough. It's hard, and it's hard to understand each other sometimes, and to understand all these pieces. And I think many people are walking around. I don't hold that bit as wet. Many people are walking around not doing that work, and just masking with alcohol and drugs, smoking, addictions, sex, so that they don't have to tackle what's real. So yeah, this all started with, where to take Chris's to start. So then we went into lockdown, right? So this there was a lot of life, and then we went into lockdown. And I'm not unvocal about saying that for me that was a like what the fuck moment of like, I'm a rebel. I'm not going to do what they tell me to do, because I live in the countryside, or I lived in the countryside at the time, and I could just carry on pretty much our life, and we did. And so Sacred Sister kind of came from that place, because I'd already been involved in two other big women's only festivals, and I'd made the choice to leave both of them, because at the top of that, there was such toxicity, and I was constantly being made to be the scapegoat of that. And I was like, no, actually, that's not just. And one of the things I've realized about myself is justice. As a neurodivergent woman, justice is a really big deal for me. If things are unjust, I just can't do it. So yeah. So I sat and I decided that I would put on an event. And I know we've been told we shouldn't. And I was like, okay. Spoke to a friend of mine who has land and said, do you think we could? Because I feel like loads of people just need, loads of women especially, just need space. Like everyone was struggling. But the women that I knew that had been stuck at home with suddenly with husbands and with kids and doing it all and holding it all and were having a hard time. And so in 2020, was it 2020? We held our first gathering. There was no promotion. I didn't do flyers, I didn't do posters, I didn't put it all over social media, I didn't talk about it. I invited a bunch of people and I just shared it with a bunch of women. And of course, those women were kind of on my wavelength and were desperate to get out of the house and desperate to spend some time together. And we had the most amazing weekend. And this year we're going back. I've called it homecoming because we're going back to that same piece of land. And I have a really big, say big mission. I'd love for 333 of us to be there. 333. Why that number? It just feels magic to me. I kind of want to prove to myself that I can. And I kind of want to prove that actually within my sphere, within our sphere, one woman telling another woman, telling another woman, that basically there's at least that many of us that want to begin to see life different, that want a different future for our kids, that want to open up to conversations with our elders. We have this amazing elder village like within our space. Like I want to hear their wisdom. I want to understand their stories. I want to know what life like was like for them. I want to reclaim some of those old ways that we've lost. I want to understand our heritage and our ancestry. I want to listen to, Stella Marie and the women in her space talking about, our culture and our Indigenous culture and what we've lost. Like, do we have an Indigenous culture here in the UK? I keep hearing flicking, let's start not talk politics, but that party talking about, making Britain good and being British. And what does that even mean? Like, we're all immigrants, right? It's an island. It didn't just kind of suddenly get inhabited by random people that just got born here. Somebody had to land here. So therefore, like, we all came from somewhere else. I just, yeah. So that's happening this year. And the lovely Rachel Crow is coming to host, drum birthing and drum workshops and her space with some other sisters. So this year we've got these beautiful spaces set up with these beautiful mamas. Marie's coming to have her space, which, Michelle's coming to hold the nest, which is all about creativity. We've got the common unity space, which is like our big stage, if you like. It's not a big stage at all, it's a big tent. We have a stage in it, and it's where we have a sound system so you can do music and dance and performance and stuff. But fundamentally, Sacred Sister started from this desire of what would it be if we all walked up in a field as equals? What would it mean if we weren't the headline act? What would it mean if we were able to just find something, a little piece of magic in every single one of us, even if it was that you just chopped some carrots, like you have a place in the village, not because of your skills, but because of who you are. How different would life be if we walked around and that was our belief and we were able to connect on that level, where every woman knew that she had a hand at her back. I had this beautiful conversation with Jackson. She was like, I'm doing loads of work in the community, but I don't really talk to my neighbours because I had a bit of a run-in with them when we moved here, and the work that we were doing on the house and stuff. And she's like, I need to deal with that. I need to build a relationship with my neighbours because fundamentally, really did hit the fan. And we really did have to begin to grow fruit and veg together, and really did have to connect. Do you know your neighbours? Do you know who those people would be that you could rely on? Do you recognise that politics and division and all of that is there, racism, culture, like all of that is there to keep us divided? Because as when we're divided, it's really fucking easy to control us. When we're divided, we're sheep. We're just going to follow the next thing that comes along. When we're pulled together, anything's possible, especially as women. So that's really what it's about. And everyone talks to me about you have to have a niche. Like, what's the niche? You have to be a woman. You have to have had a womb. You have to have had experienced a womb. Now, I did two videos this week that I haven't actually shared yet, not because I'm worried about sharing them, because I just haven't had time. Did I talk about this last week? I don't think I did talk about this last week. So I talked about politics, I think, last week. Anyway, this is a long story, very, very short, but I had somebody in and she was asking about whether she could hire the space upstairs at the Cavendish. And I was like, absolutely, of course. And she's like, oh, I do a lot of kind of work with women in politics and environment. And she said, but, I do have a slight thing that some of our local members have pointed out that if you can't see me, I'm in inverted commas, that video that you did. And I was like, oh, would that video be the one where I talk about trans women? And she was like, yeah. And I was like, did you watch the video? And she said, yeah, absolutely. And I 100% understand it. But there was a big kind of reality that we were going to, that people were asking for us to boycott the Cavendish Bazaar because of that video. And I said, okay, well, I'm really open to a conversation. And turn you around here a little bit, open my hands, to the whole view of my kitchen. I'm open to the conversation. In fact, I would absolutely love to have a conversation with you about that video because it's really important to me that people don't misinterpret and misunderstand what that video is actually about. So that video is not hidden. It's on our, as I was accused of, it's on our website. It's very clear about our trans policy for our events. This is the colour. Let me carry you over here and try and wash my hands. Or not wash my hands because that would be noisy. Let me just sit. Let me just sit with you for a moment. The dogs are like that. What is she doing now? Sorry about the noise. So our trans policy is that we don't have trans women in our fields at our events. And the reason for that, and I had a consultation with over 300 women, trans women, pre-op, post-op, non-binary women, lesbians, cisgender. I hate the word cisgendered. I'm a woman and I know I'm a woman and I'm really grateful that I know I'm a woman. Don't need to put cis in front of it, but that helps some people with that to have that label or to understand that label. I'm an ally of all women. But a decision was made to not have trans women at our event. And I made that decision based on two things. One, we work with women. We talk about wombs, we talk about cycles, we talk about women feel open to have conversations about their sexuality, their menopause, their We have girls that are just starting out on that journey, that are just coming into their first menarche. We have women in circle who are talking about miscarriages. We have women talking about abuse. We have women who feel that they can open up. That is kind of part of what we create. They don't feel necessarily safe to do that with the energy of a male body on site. And just because, and this is really hard to say, just because a trans woman has all of the feelings and emotions and sees themselves as a woman, if they are still in a male body, they are still in a male body. And it's not their fault that they're in a male body. And many of them can't afford to do anything about that. And I really get it. But I also spoke to our post-op trans women in our community, fully transitioned. And they actually said, and two of them had been to our events, and some of the women wouldn't have even known at all, at all. But they said, "Do you know what? We recognize that having been in that space with 150 women, we weren't really comfortable. And it was nothing you were doing or any of the women were doing. It was that actually I had to sit with the fact that I don't have those same experiences. I don't have those same experiences." And so the conversation is deeper, way more nuanced than a decision just made off the top of my head that that was what we were going to do. It was never based on hating trans women. It was the complete opposite. The complete opposite. And so some people will say, well, surely it's choice whether a trans woman comes or not. But then surely it's choice whether a woman is subjected to, or not subjected, that's the wrong word. I have to be so careful with my words. Words have such meaning and can be taken in so many different ways. Fundamentally, the reality is this: I want to create the safest space possible for both and all. So trans women, women, men, like whoever, we create spaces for that, for all sorts of things to happen with inside them. I didn't feel anymore that I could keep a trans woman safe necessarily on our site, or women who would have necessarily a reaction to a trans woman on our site. So I just made that decision. And at time and over time that will change. I'm already really open to running, various trans circles and trans inclusive. Like let's have the conversation. That's the bit that winds me up the most. Let's have the conversation. Let's talk about it. Let's speak openly. Let's be in a space. The last conversation I really had with a trans woman. Now, what often happens is I will have other women message me and go, "I've got a trans friend. Would she be able to come?" And I have to say no, and I'm really sorry. And that I get the anger I get and the frustration I get is from the other woman, because the trans woman would probably not likely message me in the first place, which is sad because they don't feel that they can. I feel like I might be tying myself up in all sorts of knots in this conversation. If it was just down to me, I would say, you know what, everyone's welcome. It isn't just down to me. It's down to me to lead a community that I created and for me to look at the overall arching picture. And whilst I might not have an issue, I do see that there are issues that have been created in our community due to this reality. And so I want it to feel okay for everybody that is there. So if that means you want to boycott the Cavendish Bazaar because you think that you're not going to be welcome there, or that something's not right, then I really get it. Anyway, this is not where I was expecting this to go this morning. So if you're still listening, well done. Well done for listening to the mad woman and her ramblings. But what was interesting was they were all going to boycott the place. And actually, I know because I had a meeting with two Green Party politicians that week that three of them hadn't boycotted it, yet they had openly said in a Green Party group that they were going to boycott it because it had upset some people. And that's what I have an issue with about politics. Just be real. This is what I have an issue with in my relationship right now. Just be real. I might get hurt. I might be upset. That's on me. I'm a big girl. Just be real. That's what I want in the world. How can we be so real that we can say what we really mean if it's true to us? And if it triggers the fuck out of somebody, it triggers the fuck out of them. They have to own their trigger and look at the pattern and that has brought them to that place so that they can heal, in my opinion. That's the work I do, helping people to see so that they can heal and they can embody a new way of being. So why does sacred sister exist? What does it mean to me? Everything. Everything. I sat with a group of women in the field the other week, our wisdom keepers of these spaces. And I said to them, not once in 6 years have I ever considered stepping away and not doing Sacred Sister anymore. The other two events in the communities I was talking about don't exist anymore. The other events that I know around have been an event for a number of years, and now they're beginning to build community. We started from community, and I've never faltered, even if I'm exhausted sometimes. In 6 years, have we grown to where I thought we would be? No. Am I okay with that? Yes. What did I have an expectation of? I didn't really. It was just a reality that, could we touch the hearts of more women and get them to recognize how important they are? Because that's what it's really all about for me. How do you come home to yourself and recognize that you actually are top priority in your life? I just had a little light bulb ding in my mind because I've been struggling with feeling like the bottom of the priority on my husband's priority list because we've been getting the Cavendish ready and it's been so busy and he doesn't even check in and he doesn't connect, and that makes me feel shit. It's not his job. And actually, he's not prioritizing me. I'm not prioritizing me. I'm not giving myself space. I'm not giving myself time. I'm worrying about, is there enough money for everybody else? I'm worrying about, is there someone there for the kids? I'm worrying about, and this is another thing, right? Suddenly my son is 21, grown up, got a girlfriend, and suddenly he's not mine anymore, he's hers. I mean, he's his own person, but you know what I mean? It's like there's another woman in his life and it's not his mum. And that's how it should be. That's how it should be. His top priority now is his girlfriend. Under that is his work because it provides for him and his girlfriend in the long run. And underneath that somewhere is his family and his mum. And that's okay. But it's a transition and I'm ADHD. I find transitions hard. It's 10:10 on the 22nd of May. Just spotted that on the top. Yeah. I tell you I have ADHD. Woohoo, shiny thing. So I guess what I'm saying is come. Do you want to join me in a field? 300 women might sound like a lot and it might freak you out. I promise you, you can put 1,000 women in this field and there'd still be space. So it's not going to feel overcrowded. We're not a festival that gives you a program that makes you run back to back from workshop to workshop to workshop to workshop. We have loads of space. There's things to do. If you're a doer, there are workshops to attend. There are things that you will learn. There is so much wisdom in our wisdom keepers spaces. There's a healing field. There's a sauna. There's space. There's the earth. There's 5 fields that join together, fed by a spring, powered by solar, in direct line to the tour in Glastonbury on Avalon land, where our ancestors grew. I want to go home. I really want to go home. Where I don't feel odd, where I don't have to try and fit in a world that doesn't really understand me. Where you might not understand me, but that would be okay. where the common denominator in that field, first and foremost, is that we're a woman. And yeah, I don't have a womb anymore, but I did have. I have huge cycle experiences. I've birthed children and I've lost many. That's coming home for me. And if I only get to do it really once a year in a field with you lot, that's the invitation. What would it be to truly come home and give yourself that? We say you can come for 5 days. You can come from Thursday, the 30th of July, till the 3rd of August, the Monday. But you can also rock up anywhere up until Friday evening. We have our opening circle at 4 o'clock on Friday. And we close with our closing circle at 4 o'clock on Sunday. So some people will only come from Friday to Sunday. Some will stay a little bit longer. Some will, dip in and out. But if this touches something in you, if my ramblings make you feel normal, then we're probably your tribe. So give us a shout. Come along. Drop a message here. Let me know I'm not on my freaking own. And I'll see you soon. I have no idea how long this is now, so thank you if you've stayed till the end. Lots of love. Bye for now. Laura out.